You keep shoving that stuff in, you keep shoving that anxiety away, you keep shoving that sadness away. Eventually that's going to break and you're going to have to unpack it. And, I think that choice to be able to unpack it on your own, especially when you have someone like a mentor there or someone there that is generally cares about your well-being, especially like Michael's saying, if they come from a situation where people maybe didn't really want to hear that, that's going to help them in athletics. I guarantee their performances, they might drop a little bit because they're dealing with life, but that's going to help them later in life. And I'm a big believer as a coach, it's not about what you do with your 4 or 5 years with me at college. It's about what happens 4 or 5 years later when you get that degree. You become you, and I think that is such a pivotal point for young adults.
I want to bring this up because I've had this happen when I've talked about sports performance, mindset, all those sorts of different things, sports psych with different players. I'll get a lot of the times like, oh, I do journal. And so what do you say back to that when they say, oh, I do journal?
What's it look like?
Yeah. Great. Okay. And really, the reason we built this is a lot of the times if they don't journal, it's because they don't necessarily know how, or if we recommend, hey, you should try journaling at the end of the day, reflect on your day, journal and just see what's there. They always get stuck. A lot of the times they get stuck. And so these prompt journals that we've put together, this guided journaling, it just helps break that ice, right? You crack it open after you have an event, right? By event, I mean, in this journal, we trigger all of our journal entries by an athletic performance. So maybe you went and did an individual workout. You went for a run or hit the weight room or whatever. Okay, you shouldn't be shaking with adrenaline. Okay, but your heart rate should be down, and then boom, crack open your journal, work yourself through a couple of prompts and just reflect on that workout. Take some time to actually think about it. How did I perform? Did I do well in this situation? Where did I feel I struggled? When I struggled, how did I react? What did that do to my next performance? And the whole idea is bringing awareness, helping us recognizing our own patterns. And with awareness, now all of a sudden you can start to come up with strategies, come up with tools, start to identify areas that you can, oh, I'm heading in a bad direction. I better nip it here and get back on the right path. And so we actually use 3 different trigger points throughout the week. We have individual workouts. We have team trainings or practices or individual athlete practices, something technical where you're focusing on your sport. And then we have competitions. And depending on which one, it's going to change the prompt slightly. And that's how we help athletes build a habit around journaling. It's how we help them understand the types of things to think about. It introduces them to their own mind and their own thought processes so they can start to learn, well, how does my mind work? Right. And just because I'm thinking these things, that doesn't make me who I am. I can think them, recognize those thoughts, and I can bring myself back to a good spot. And so that's really the point of this, is to help them start to build those healthy habits around reflection and journaling. And then the last piece too is, since we focused it on an athletic performance, we like to tell them it's extra reps. Right? It's, hey, you're going through those reps, even the bad ones, and you're saying, all right, well, what happened? How did I get there? How would I do that differently next time? Right? And you're learning and you're growing and you're solidifying that. We have them physically write it in the book. It's not a digital tool on your phone, because physically writing it, now it's moving it to another spot in your brain and you're really starting to solidify those learnings. So we put a lot of thought into kind of how to organize this and why to do things a certain way that might not be the most popular right now, right? Digital is the way to go, but we chose to stay analog here.
Yeah, and I know one of the big things is we give some of that background information along the lines of like, this is what we see as the big thing. Like Suskin said, and Jameson said, oh, you're going to college. You've never made food for yourself. You've never done this for yourself. You've maybe never had to handle this for yourself. Here's a framework for you to start from and how to potentially do that so that you can be successful, or at least have a starting point to know what works and doesn't work for you. And then iron that out, figure out what works.
Speaking about all that, and obviously, I love the fact that you show, how that you're making progress. But I think, to that kind of like that question of the person saying, oh, I do journal, that response back, I do journal. I kind of think of it the same way as like, well, I practice. What do you mean? I train. I mean, I should be a Division I goalkeeper. I don't understand it. I mean, I practice 4 times a week, just like everybody else. Why am I not a high level goalkeeper? And I love the fact that you guys have kind of brought up the fact that everyone needs a spine to work from in order to have a foundation on how to use their tools. And I know, Saskia, I know you've been really big on that. It's like foundation.
Yeah.
So, go ahead. I stepped away for a second. So go ahead.
A good example of that, Michael, is so I journal every night, and I have for 3.5 years now. And periodically, I have to audit what I'm doing. And what I mean by that is I say, all right, when I journal, what am I doing? What am I getting out of it? What am I not getting out of it? How should I change it now? And so I'm constantly tweaking how I journal, the things I focus on, and that sort of stuff. And that allows me to continue to evolve and adapt as my environment changes, as my life changes, as I change. And one of the big things with this journal is we worked really hard to make it timeless. So, going back to the practice analogy or the workout analogy, when you finish this 12-week journal and you put it down, you're not done. You're not like, there, I know how to mentally perform now, right? You pick it up and you do it again. Maybe take a few weeks off. That's fine. Sit in it a while, but you pick it up and you go through those exact same 12 weeks. I guarantee you a different week is going to have a bigger impact on you this time than it did the last time, because last time you just weren't there yet. You weren't ready for it. And that's okay. Like your environment, your level that you were performing at, whatever it wasn't there yet. And I think the quote is, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear, right? And I'm probably botching that, but that's how we view this journal. And so every time you go through this journal, you're going to get something different out of it. And it'll be interesting to watch. How do you respond to, one of these prompts the first time you go through the journal versus the 4th time you go through the journal? The prompts don't have to change. You're changing. Your environment's changing. And so the prompt just gets your mind running, and then you and your mind hash through whatever it's running through, and you grow and learn from that.
I'm looking at something right here that I think is really awesome that you've got involved in the whole journal process, and that is needs versus wants, how to get both. Because I think a lot of us, not just young athletes, but everybody in general, gets those confused on what we need versus what we want and how to differentiate between those.
I'll take that one. I love that one. That one I think is so tough, where I want to do this. I want to be this. I want to do that. That's great. Those are, I think, we can take Maslow's hierarchy of need, as some of you all know that one, the triangle that's old, is very, very old. However, those are awesome. We can get those. However, our foundation are those basics. Those basic needs that we highlight week 1 or whatever week it is. I think it's week 1, 2, 3, and 4, yep. Where it's how do we get more effective at meeting our wants? Well, we got to, eat, sleep, drink enough water. If I don't do those 3, I'm in pain. I'm not doing so well. I don't operate well. I can't even think about getting my higher needs met until I meet those. Mm-hmm. And James and I had talked where it's, you think of the great athletes. They don't do anything that much different than what other athletes do. They just do it at a better level or better frequency. And one of those can be in your control. How well you drink enough water, how well you have sleep hygiene, how well you balance your meals. And then that can get you to that next step, that last percent, that 1% that separates you from, one person that's not doing that.
Wow, I love that, because I'm just thinking about, it's like, I want to be the starting goalkeeper on my varsity high school team. I don't need to be the starting goalkeeper on my varsity team. And I think there's just so much focus.
I think it's what do you need to do to get to your want? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so it's not that you need to be the starting goalkeeper. It's what does your body need? What does your mind need? What does everything need to get to your want? Right. So you want to go play pro. You get recruited by a big 5 or big 3.
Let's get this going. So in about 1 minute, we will have to wait till 4 o'clock.
It's completely okay. I am nowhere to go but here.
Nowhere to go.
Yeah.
Don't you have another session to run?
Well, yeah, but I told Stan I was doing this.
Oh,
so.
okay. Okay, cool. All right, cool. Okay, let's get this going. Here we go. Welcome to Inside the 18, live from Camp Shutout in beautiful Stevens Point, Wisconsin. I'm Michael Magid. With me, no 99 World Cup winner Saskia Weber today, but we've got somebody who's going to be filling in as amazingly as Saskia does at any moment. We have former University of Florida Gator Francesca Faraci joining us. Do you see how I rolled the tongue on that one?
Yes, I liked it. I like it. Makes it different.
It does make it a little bit different. So obviously a lot of you guys here are watching on the Union app, and shout out to you guys who are watching on the Union app. We're at Camp Shutout right now. We're in day 2 right now at Camp Shutout. If you guys have never been to Camp Shutout before, I believe Omar Zini from Pro GK Academy called it Disneyland for goalkeepers. Would you say that's about right, Fran?
Oh, for sure. I haven't been back in a while, but that has been the definition back then and now. So
I love it. I love it. Like, I think one of my favorite things about Camp Shutout is just the simple fact is that, like, even though people are training consistently for so many hours on the day, everyone's having a great time. Like, whether it's like players, whether it's coaches, whether it's like staff that aren't coaches. Like, there's people here who I'm like, oh, where'd you play? And they're like, I don't play soccer. I'm just helping out this camp. And I'm like, that's how much people love Stan Anderson, apparently.
yes, exactly. Everyone's welcome in this family.
Okay.
So
tell us a little bit. Obviously, like, you're involved in Camp Shutout, not just as a coach, but like you were a former, I don't want to say camper, young goalkeeper at this camp. So how did that whole thing happen? Is that because you were playing for Stan?
yeah. So I met Stan originally by coming to Camp Shutout. A lot of people think I met him through FC United because I played on FC United, but I met him by coming to Camp Shutout. My mom found this camp and I did not want to come, but I came and I fell in love with the people here and Stan. And then I was actually on Eclipse as a player, and then Stan got the job at FC United. So I decided to switch back to FC United with my good friend Kiki Van Zandt, she's in the World Cup right now. But
wait, hold on. That's a story we got to talk about. You're like, she's like, look, I'm in Stevens Point, Wisconsin. I don't know if you know that, but like,
yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So we played on Eclipse together. She's been my close friend ever since we were on Eclipse. And then we both decided to switch over to FC United our senior year. She switched over because she was already committed to Notre Dame. And then I switched over because Stan was coaching there and I knew him from Camp Shutout and stuff. So I thought it would be a better training environment for me. And then I ended up being able to connect with Florida through there. So it was amazing for me.
I mean, so let's talk a little bit about that. Obviously, one of the reasons we want to have you on the show is because we're talking about transitions and dealing with different coaching staffs and systems and all that sort of thing. And I think first off, before we kind of get into that topic, I think this is really relevant to a lot of not only like college goalkeepers, but also young goalkeepers who transition from different clubs.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes, for sure. Yeah, I was definitely I wouldn't say a club hopper. That sounds bad. But
you weren't a mercenary, just like some hitman was just going team to team.
Yeah, literally no. It just is what happened because I went from playing in the National League with FC. Well, I played on FC1 first in Glenview at a young age, and I actually met really close friends that I'm still friends with today, and we're still friends with their parents. So that's awesome. I played there. And then after that, I played at FC United in the National League. That was super kind of like the beginning thing for women back when I was younger. And then the ECNL became popular. So I went to Eclipse and I played for Rory at Eclipse and Mike Nessie for their ECNL team. And then we switched to DA. So I stayed on Eclipse, played for DA. And then my senior year, I came to FC United.
Speaking of transition,
yeah, I've had them all.
You soccer's had like a transition, like, and I can't keep track of like, I think some parents call it alphabet soup. It's like this division to like this letter sim. Like, did you see any difference between like DA and ECNL, or was it or about the same for you?
Well, when I was younger, the DA like was brand new. I
Okay.
think it was my junior year. The DA was brand new, and all the elite players just immediately like were like, we have to do this because the boys do it. Like,
Yeah.
it's normally what it is, right? So all of us just kind of like did it. But to be honest, it was definitely not as organized as the ECNL or put together the way the ECNL was put together for women. So
obviously you were going through that whole elite process and everything like that. But like, it seems like, being involved in programs like this, where you're able to meet community of goalkeepers that was away from just your club environment. Like, was that, speaking again, segue to transition, an interesting transition for you when you first came to like a camp like this?
So wait, let me just repeat the question to make sure I have it. Can you repeat it? Yeah, I think I get what you're asking.
So basically, like, what I'm trying to say is, like, obviously, like, when you're in your bubble, right, and you're going around, you're playing ECNL players or DA players or everything like that. We have kids here who are like just coming from rec basically, and like being thrown into a completely different environment. Like, did you feel like going to an environment like this was a transition for you, because you're like, oh, there's a whole world out there outside of like FC United and Eclipse and all that?
Yeah, so I think that kind of like I did see that, but at the same time, I never, as a camper or now a staff member, looked at anyone like based off like what league they played in. I think it's more of like kind of a college thing. It's like, oh, what college you go to? That's kind of more of a thing once you get older. But after coaching this week or playing with the players like throughout the time that I was a camper, I never really noticed what league people played in.
Yeah.
That's kind of, I think, more of a big thing for the boys at the higher level, but like maybe it is for the girls too. I just never like looked at people like that, or I was like, oh, she's good because she's in the DA or something like that.
It's almost as if women like take people on their own merit as opposed to like their like status symbol.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about Camp Shutout, because obviously, you're here now as staff doing that whole thing. What's that experience like, and like, why do you keep coming back?
So obviously it is a big difference, but so to give you guys kind of a background, I went to Camp Shutout for 2 or 3 years. I cannot remember if it was 2 or 3 years. But I went for 2 or 3 years as a camper in high school. I think it was my freshman, sophomore, and junior year. Then my senior year, I had to go down to the University of Florida to play like summer B and do our conditioning and everything. And every year since then, I've had to do the same every summer. So for the past 4 years, I haven't been at Camp Shutout. And then finally this year, Tony and Stan reached out again and we're like, Fran, you can come now. And I was like, of course I'm going to come now. So I'm here now. I'm just super appreciative for everything like Stan has done for me throughout all these 4 years. Like, there was no way I wasn't coming back to 1, something I have fun with, 2, to see people I love, and 3, just to honestly make myself happy and make myself have a good week. So
I love it. Now I'm going to ask you a big favor right now, because right now I'm using my phone as the camera.
Okay.
So if you could open your phone, turn it on mute, and open up this live stream, and we're going to be answering questions from players probably coming on to here. Are you going to be cool with that?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay,
of
cool.
course.
Okay, so if there's any young goalkeepers out there who are watching the show live right now, and even in the recording, if you want to put it in the comment section, we'll definitely try to get back to you in the future.
I don't know how to get to it.
You don't know how to get to it. Okay, so let's open it back up here. This is a tutorial for everybody on how to use the app. This is great.
Oh yeah, don't ask Stan about the app. That's why I don't know a lot about it, because I talk to him the most.
Get out of here. You are in groups. Okay, so down here, see where it says explore? Click on that, okay? And now, when you open that up, this right here, this is going live right now as we speak. And then,
I didn't put it on mute. That's my bad.
You did not put it on mute. By the way, your phone is so fancy. It's like all like this heavy glass, like it's awesome. So any questions that come in here, so if you can text right here, if there's any young goalkeepers that are listening right now, if you have questions about this topic, feel free to put it in, or any topics for Fran, you can do that. I would do it, but I've got 17 different things going on at the same time. Usually there's an engineer, usually there's Saskia here, all that sort of stuff's going on. All right, let's get into this topic, transitions. explain your whole situation first off, because it sounds like you had 35 different head coaches.
No, not 35, but I did have 3 different head coaches. So my my senior year of college, of high school, I was recruited by Becky, who was my head coach for my freshman and sophomore year. And then my sophomore year at the end, kind of like when COVID was starting to wrap up, she announced her retirement to the world, or to the US kind of more, but to the world overall, which was kind of crazy because she's the only coach that University of Florida ever had. She coached Abby Wambach, obviously, and she won a national championship there. So when she announced like her resignation, it was big, especially because we weren't expecting it for like at least a few more years. So she resigned. And then after that, we got a new head coach about 4 months later, I think it was. In May, Tony Amato was announced our head coach, and then he was our head coach for 9 months, I believe, until he got fired by the University of Florida. And then Samantha Boehm was hired as our head coach this year.
And so that's a lot. That's a lot. And that's obviously got to be a lot of anxiety for, a collegiate player, because for those of you guys who aren't familiar with the college system here in the United States, because people watch all over the world, it can be very cutthroat. I know a lot of university systems around the world, it's considered more recreational, but at the college level here in the United States is a very high level. I would consider it a semi-professional level. Probably bordering on professional in some other countries. So when you have turnover of staff like that, you're probably wondering, okay, what happens to my scholarship? Like, are they going to want me to transfer? Like, do I have a place? Like, is that the kind of anxiety that happens to players?
Yeah, I think that for us personally, the transitions were kind of more based around not safe environments, but like everybody that was recruited by Becky was recruited to be in an environment where the person you are always came over the player you were.
Yeah. So
when Scott Strickland, our athletic director, was picking a new coach for the team both times, he was looking for someone like that. That was someone that the University of Florida, that's how all teams at the University of Florida operate. That's what we were looking for. And that's kind of what we were the most nervous about. So when Tony got hired at Florida and he was on the Zoom with his kids, like that was something that stuck out as important to us. Yeah. Family is super big. The type of person you are, the way you execute your behaviors in intense environments is just kind of like the way that players at the University of Florida, the way that Becky recruited players into the University of Florida.
So let's talk a little bit about like just kind of like when a player finds out that staff is changing, like what's the first thing a player should do when that happens? Like should they do
or what I did?
Okay, well let's talk about what you did first.
I cried.
Let's talk about what you should do. Okay.
I cried, but that's okay. But it was happy tears because I was super happy for Becky for making that decision for herself.
Yeah.
So I cried.
Yeah.
But after that, it's kind of just weighing your pros and cons. Some people did enter the transfer portal. I decided not to because a high education was super important to me.
Yeah.
University of Florida was my dream school. My dad went there.
Really?
So yeah. So
did you play sports too?
No,
okay.
But that's okay. We still love him.
I love the way you said that too. You're like, no, he's not.
No, my mom was super athletic. She was like on the junior Olympic swim team and stuff. And she was super athletic.
Okay.
But no, yeah. So I went to University of Florida to be a Gator and to graduate as a Gator. And as it has shown, like over the 3.5 years that I was there, I graduated. And even though I had a bunch of different goalkeeper coaches, a bunch of different head coaches, and the most assistant coaches, I stuck it out through all of it because I wanted to graduate as a Gator.
Yeah. So that's what you did,
mm-hmm.
which is the crying aspect. And then just, again, for lack of a better term, kind of internalizing everything. What do you think a player in that position should do?
I think a player should, after I cried, I did do this. I weighed out my options. And I made a pros and cons list. That's something I've always done in life, not just soccer, when making a decision about what I want. And a lot of the times when I make a decision, that I really encourage young people, older people, anyone that just doesn't know like what to do in making a decision. A lot of the times I think about what I would regret more. And I knew that if I left Florida, I would regret it. I would regret not having my best friends around me, not having a great education, not having the dean of my school, my journalism school, and I were super close. And I love having good conversations with him or catching up with him. My tutor, I was super close with my tutor throughout all my years.
Really?
At Florida.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
She was like my best friend.
That's why you had great grades.
Yeah.
Because you're tutor.
Yes, of course. I love her so much.
But Fran, I love the fact that you just brought up all the extra areas of student life, because I think so many young goalkeepers who get put in a position, they just like immediately just go transfer portal, go in the transfer portal. All right, really? Why? Because of the soccer element, or like, is this not the right school for you? Like, you really need to look at that. I just see so many young goalkeepers, like they go on to a school and they're like, yeah, it was just like a better team and stuff like that. It's like, what's the environment like? It's like this commuter school, so there's like not really a campus life. And I'm like, well, okay, well, you were playing soccer still at the other school and you were starting, so why make that decision? So let's talk about like before spring ball happens. What type of communication should you have with this new staff? Should you implement it, engage it, or should they engage it? Like, what's kind of your philosophy on that?
Yeah. So our head coaches came in the summer, both of them.
Okay.
We had 2 new head coaches in the summer. I don't really know necessarily the transfer rules, and I don't want to like give any false information to anyone.
Someone's like, Francesca Faraci said this on a podcast.
I know. Yeah.
They're like, lives are ruined.
No, yeah. But one of my best friends actually transferred, and she decided to transfer in the spring, or enter the portal in the spring. But a lot of the decision making for the players that decided to transferred before Tony was fired from our program.
Gotcha.
So
okay.
That was kind of how that worked. So I don't really know an answer to that question with the spring transition.
I mean, I think like, the thing is that like, and I've spoken to a lot of people who've come into staffs, after the fact, after, let's just say, either a losing season or a winning season, and a coach moves on to the professional ranks or retires, like you're talking about there. And they're like, I need to make sure that my methodology is known to these goalkeepers. I need to have a conversation with not just one individual goalkeeper, but the goalkeeping community. Like, I think that's important, is like, if you sit down like all 3 or 4, however many goalkeepers you have in your pool, and be like, these are my expectations. This is my methodology. This is what I look for in goalkeepers. I think you're going to have a lot more success with those goalkeepers.
Oh, 100%. Yes. Yeah.
Do you feel like that happens enough? You can talk to the coaches right now. You can tell them.
I think it does happen a lot more, but only with goalkeeper coaches that have invested a lot of their time in each individual player as a person. It's super, like, being a goalkeeper coach for club sports is so different than being a goalkeeper coach in college. Like, when you're a goalkeeper coach in college, like when I was there, at least most of the time, a lot of them aren't paid and they're not on full staff. So like they have other time jobs. And I had like 3 different goalkeeper coaches, and the one I just had, Jack. Oh my gosh, I love Jack. He has a new job now. He doesn't work at Florida anymore. But like,
what's Jack do now? Like corporate finance or something?
No, he has a different job at a different college. But he poured so much time into us and what we wanted to get better at and stuff like that. So I really saw like kind of a difference in the coaching with him with the goalkeeper pool. And he was a very good goalkeeper coach, but he cared so much about us as people. And that was just so amazing, especially like after the transition of like the 2 goalkeeper coaches like I had in the past. Like, they cared about me as a person, but like just like the way Jack would always check in 24/7 was huge. And like Stan is like, he's got a lot going on, right?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing he responds to people.
Yeah,
like,
he's like Becky. Like, honestly, that's why I think I'm so close with Stan and Becky.
Yeah.
Because they're both super famous people. Like everyone knows who they are in the soccer world.
Yeah.
And both of them really make a time to make sure like each individual player like is cared about, thought about, looked at, and all that stuff, and kind of like transitioning that into like this camp shutout thing and the groups and how everyone's so nervous about what group you're in. Like Stan truly drives around to every group. Like, and I've noticed that as a staff person and as someone that was a camper. And when I was in the lower groups compared to the higher groups, like he really cares about everyone. And same thing with Becky. I was not a high ranked player.
Yeah.
I got recruited to the University of Florida as not a high ranked player. Like I played on a good team, but I wasn't really like a high ranked goalkeeper.
Yeah.
So just like caring and looking at everyone could really, really like change your life, change your program, change your camp, change your school. So,
I want, you know, it's interesting that you said that because I'm just thinking about like camp shutout right now, just our small little world here and the groups thing and just how I see kids like punching posts and stuff like that. Cause like got moved right or left or whatever. And like, it's like, I had one kid had such a great disposition about it, you know, and I'm not going to say him out. I'm not going to call him out on blast right here. Cause I don't know if he wanted me to or not, but this morning at breakfast and he's like, honestly, he's like, I don't care what group I'm in as long as I'm getting good service and as long as I'm improving. And I was like, wow, you've already won life.
Yeah, right.
You've already won life. But it also makes you think about how many people strive like, I need to be playing at this school or I need to be playing at that school. I just think we're so transfer happy nowadays.
Yeah. The transfer portal's at like higher rates than it's ever been at before.
Yeah.
So
it's because the rules have changed.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude, like when I transferred, it was like 7 years before I could play soccer again. It was ridiculous.
Really?
It was like I was like basically exiled. They're like, oh, you're transferring. They're like, well, you have to sit out. You have to lose this year of eligibility. It's like a punishment.
Yeah.
It's like, why am I being punished for leaving a school I don't want to be at? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
I think that the transfer rules like just need to be set in stone, and there needs to be situations where people are being able to be exempt because they don't exempt any athletes that are in awful situations. And that's honestly, I think, unacceptable.
Completely. I mean, look at the situation that happened to Cal a few years ago.
Yeah.
You know, and like imagine if the rules hadn't changed and those players had just lost eligibility.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, then COVID happened. So, you know, fortunately they got 17 years of eligibility. There's like 27-year-olds who are like rookies in the NWSL this year. It's crazy. All right. So let's talk about this a little bit here. I want to talk about just the simple fact that you were bringing up, like the connection with the coach, how important that is. I think personally, if you're a coach and you come in as a staff, you need to not only establish yourself as a person, but as a coach, because like a lot of players, I think they don't know what to expect from you because they've never worked with you before. And a lot of coaches come in and they're like, this is just not, they're not. So I need to, and everyone's so happy to bring in their own recruits. They bring in their own recruits. And obviously with goalkeeping, it's difficult because you're talking about like only one goalkeeper plays, you know? So like, what advice do you give to like coaches out there that like go in there and think like, well, these aren't my goalkeepers, and they have that like that kind of stigma. So they're kind of like, I guess I'll deal with this until I can bring in my own.
Yeah. So like, are you saying like coaches that go into a new school and are coaching keepers that they didn't
recruit? Yeah.
Yeah. I think that it's as simple as you affect the goalkeeper's life.
Yeah.
Completely. The way you talk to them every day is remembered. The way that you talk to them when they're at the field, not at the field, check in on them, check in on their grades. Like literally a coach depicts a college athlete's life. And that needs to be so known to every student athlete and more importantly, every parent. Because if you're a parent and you don't feel like your kid is safe in an environment, like if you have a bad gut feeling about it, it's worth looking into. Because I know so many college athletes that have had unfortunate situations that could have avoided them by simply looking into the situation more or whatever. Like, I think it's different. Like if you're in my situation, right? I go to a school, a new coach comes in, right? But that just comes down to the athletic association doing a better job and looking into the coach better. And I think the University of Florida knows that. So that comes down to that. But
I think a big problem is, and I'll say this here on the air, live. I don't care because I'm not coaching college right now, but I think one of the biggest problems is the volunteer coach issue in the NCAA, and in regards to the goalkeeper coach is always slapped with this volunteer, and they're like, you know what, we'll if you're going to grad school, we'll give you books, or hey, you can make money doing camps. It's like, all right. So you're basically getting people who are willing to make that sacrifice to work at a college. And sometimes you're getting people that maybe aren't the highest of quality just because they can't afford somebody leaving the club game or leaving the pro game to do that,
Well, I don't know if you know, but that rule just changed.
Oh, it did. Okay.
Yes, it did. Now you can have 4 head, not head coaches,
Okay.
1 head coach, 3 assistant coaches in Division I women's soccer.
This is why I'm not in the college game anymore because I don't even know the rules.
I know. Yeah. Because somebody just got hired at the University of Florida. So.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome because I just thought that was always just such a dumb rule, and a lot of the times what was happening is a grad student was becoming the goalkeeper coach.
Yeah.
So it was like somebody who literally graduated a year before is now doing session design for you. And not saying that person couldn't necessarily be qualified, but it's definitely
it's not fair to the coach either.
No,
though,
it's not.
To be quite honest, no matter who it is, you're putting in a lot of time and a lot of effort to these kids, and the head coach is most likely asking you to put in a lot of time and a lot of effort to these kids, design the set pieces, offensively, defensively, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And it's just not fair. So I'm happy they changed that rule.
That's
proud of the NCAA for that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations to the NCAA. I don't know if I've ever said that before. I don't know if I've ever clapped it up for the NCAA. It's like clapping it up to Voldemort. It's an interesting experience.
I love that movie.
So let's talk about systems. Oh, we could just do that. Alex and I were going to be doing a podcast tomorrow. I think some other people are coming on too. We're going to be talking about superheroes, and we're going to do a goalkeeper draft.
Oh my god!
Do you want to be on that?
Yes,
show?
I would love to be on that. I love Marvel. I'm Spider-Man though.
Okay.
We're
gonna we're gonna do it. So we're gonna do a goalkeeper draft. So I got to figure out what the rules are gonna be. It'll be fun. It'll be fun.
Yeah, I would love that. It'll Marvel.
Be fun. So if you guys are watching live right now, we're gonna do that tomorrow. That is Tuesday, July 25th. Is that right?
Yes. Tomorrow's my sister's 21st birthday.
Wow.
So I know the date tomorrow.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Now, is that an F for Florida or F for Fran?
This is an F for Fran.
Okay.
Yes. My mom gave me this for Christmas last year. So.
So it works. Let's talk about systems because when new coaches come in, systems change.
Yes. You mean the way we play?
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
No. Yeah. I mean, that I was assuming when I said systems, I guess I should have been a little bit more specific about it. Systems of play in soccer, in the football. Yeah. I know that's something that's really hard for a lot of goalkeepers.
Yeah.
Because they're like, well, now we're playing route 1. Why? Well, we were playing possession before. It's like, yeah, this coach just wants you to hoof the ball up.
Yeah, welcome to Francesca Faraci's work.
Okay, let's talk about it then.
Yes, I would love to talk about this.
All right.
So, Becky, we played a lot out of the back. When I was recruited to Florida, I'm my skill level is shot stopping. So, I was a big shot stopper. And I think Becky knew that. So it was kind of project of her and Alan's and Vic's to get me really good with my feet so that I could one day hopefully be in the starting lineup at Florida. So I worked on a lot of footwork stuff my freshman and sophomore year with not just the coaches, but also the players. One of my best friends, Nicole, we worked on a lot of foot stuff together, distribution and stuff. And then after that, of course, Becky retires and I get a coach that likes hitting every ball long and running. So I know it was so unfortunate, but you know what? I don't care.
But you know what?
All my hard work did pay off because I know I was way better with my feet at the end of it.
That being said, this is a conversation I actually had it with Stan. So shout out to Stan if he's listening right now in regards to this. Goalkeepers have to be able to adjust and they have to have the skill sets and the tools in their toolbox, because I think and this happens to young goalkeepers here at camp. They're like, yeah, it's just more short play. It's I'm not really great hitting the ball long. It's that's not an excuse.
Yeah.
Because not every situation is going to call for you to play tiki-taka. Sometimes you are going to have to launch that ball. And what if you want to break lines? What if from a scouting standpoint, you have a mismatch? I've just hit this ball right here. Now we have an opportunity to score because you want to get results too, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I think I will not sit on this podcast and say I am amazing at hitting the ball long because I was not amazing at hitting the ball. That was definitely one of my weak points, but we hit the ball long
Yeah.
every time on a goal kick.
Every time.
Almost every time that I can remember.
Even when the rules changed. And
Even when the rules, well, we started working on something else,
Yeah.
but we hit it long a lot on the goal kick.
So Annika, and shout out to Annika who just asked this question. She goes, does the new rule apply for men's D1 as well for coaches? Do you know if that's true?
For coaches, I do not know if it's true. But you can ask Stan. I know he'll know because we talked about it today.
There's actually quite a few college coaches here, so and players playing in college, so they might know better about that, and we'll definitely research that for you, Annika, to find out how that works out. So obviously, the whole systems issue. I think one of the problems too is that like a player will come in, and then all of a sudden they don't know why they're not getting selected, because there's not enough communication, and the coach goes, oh, they don't have the qualities I was looking for, but they never had that conversation. Because like maybe you can hit the ball long.
Yeah.
And you never had that conversation.
Yeah. Coaches that come into schools need to talk to their players about what they want, because honestly, a lot of the times, like, arguments between coaches and players is simply not because someone's a bad person. It's because they're not on the same page.
Yeah.
Being on the same page and communication is key in college athletics, college in general, life. No one's going to be successful if they can't communicate with other people and try to be on the same page, because obviously everyone's going to have different opinions.
Yeah.
That's what makes everyone unique and special. Like,
absolutely.
obviously a lot of people here are not like me. I'm very loud, very outgoing, whatever. But at the same time, like, I got to adjust. I got to be quiet sometimes so that other people can step up and be leaders. That's like the whole point of being a leader too, right?
Yeah.
It's not only about being the loud person in the room.
And I think, you just brought up a great point right there, is that like when a new staff comes in, like especially for the underclassmen, if you're an older goalkeeper, like you're more veteran than the staff is. So you need to take that leadership role. You can't just, expect the coach to come in and do that, because it's going to be even more difficult for them, because they're new to the college environment.
Yeah.
Let's say you're a freshman and you had that situation, which had to have been difficult.
Yeah, it was difficult. Yeah.
Do you think if you had been a junior, it would have been a different story? And I'm just using the Becky example as opposed to, the other changes.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't mean to put you on the spot like with that, but
yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
Let's talk a little bit about like with the youth game, because I know obviously a lot of people here are not playing in college, so this might be a little bit more relevant to them. I've had a lot of youth goalkeepers, and they kind of go to different private coach because their parents say, oh, well, this person, they're not vibing with this person. They're not vibing with this person. They're not vibing with this person. And so they're always transitioning. A lot of the times I find out it's not the goalkeeper coach, it's the player. And they're not willing to look internally to like what it is that might be affecting them to leave. Do you think a lot of that is just because players don't want to deal with either being told the truth or being in an environment that's difficult?
Okay, I think that's a hard question, but
I'm putting you on the spot here.
Yeah, I'll give you my best answer.
Media and journalism major here. Come on, let's do this.
I think that honestly, that kids are kids for a reason. It depends on, first of all, what age you are.
Yeah.
That's definitely
True.
A huge impactor. Second of all, like I said earlier, everyone's got to be able to adjust in classrooms, on the field, in the courtroom. Literally, everyone's got to be able to adjust, got to meet in the middle somewhere. So I never, honestly, if I'm being honest with you, I never think it's just the kid's fault.
You never do? Okay.
Never.
Okay.
Like, I think that it can be partially the kid's fault, because I've come across a lot of girls and a lot of boys and never like to think that they're wrong. But myself including, sometimes I don't like to admit I'm wrong.
Do you think sometimes it's the parents?
I think a lot of times it is the parents, that are especially driving it within the kids, or driving tension between the coach and the kid. But parents just love their kids. My mom and dad were very invested in soccer, to say the least. But now being retired and being done with soccer, I really
tired. You made it sound like you're in the AARP. Your whole life is just beginning. What are you talking
retired
about?
with soccer. I really realized it was only because my parents love me, but I've also seen cases where parents are definitely too intense with their children. And there's definitely a line that is hard for kids to see, but sometimes if coaches see it, maybe they could like try and maybe ask the kid if they're okay instead of fighting with them.
I think like when we're talking about transitions here, like one thing that I see a lot of the times is like when a player goes to college, a lot of times it's the first time they've ever had like a goalkeeper coach they've been with the same private coach and their club coach like their entire lives. And now it's a different voice and they don't know how to handle it.
Yeah. I think that happened to me for sure. Well, not completely, because I had like Jordy at Eclipse and then Stan at FC United. But
you had the shutout experience. You had people.
Yeah, exactly. Here. Yeah. But I think that just like my freshman year, like the goalkeeper coach I had, I didn't necessarily get along with him in the best way. And a lot of myself still doesn't know why.
Okay.
But it was just a personality thing that was just different. And it was like, kind of like, oh, what do I do now?
Yeah.
This is my only option.
Yeah.
So that was definitely difficult. And where I'm coming from, Stan, who's like a dad to me. So it's a bit.
He's a dad
like,
to a
different.
lot of people.
Yeah. Right. Like it's a bit different.
Yeah.
So,
but like, so I think, one of the things is that like, I think it's the parents' responsibility to expose the kids to different types of training. I mean, obviously the kids should take some sort of autonomy in this as they get older, but when they're younger, like I really encourage, parents out there to not just have their kid train with one person, like really get to experience and train with other kids too, from different areas. Like we were talking about, like you, like, so if you had literally spent your entire life training at FC United and Eclipse and then gone off to Florida and literally had never worked with goalkeepers or goalkeeper coaches from other areas, it probably would have been a total culture shock for you.
No, yeah, for sure. Something I did that was actually, he's here, Dougie.
Okay.
I worked with him at Pause a lot.
Okay.
And I met new people.
I'd be terrified to train with Dougie.
It's not that terrifying.
It's not? Okay.
Well, I was terrified at first
Okay.
when it was like at this indoor facility and I got knocked in the face one time. I swear I told my parents, I am never going back there. My face ain't worth it. Like, I was like, it ain't worth it. But I ended up, of course, going back and now have a great relationship with him. So that was something that was kind of like my outside like training thing, away from like away from FC United. So I did with Pause
from FC United. So let's talk about like the transition in life now, because like you said, this morning was the first time you had hit the ground in 9 months.
Yes.
Like you haven't been doing
You're exposing me.
I'm not trying to expose you. Although I did just say that out loud on live to a worldwide app. But we kept it a little bit more closed circuit. It's not out. We didn't put it on the Facebook or the Instagram or anything
no,
like that.
No, it's okay. I would have told anyone.
Okay.
Just joking.
But like, you talk about obviously sports media journalism. I think you're going to crush it if that's the direction you want to go.
Thank
and everything
you.
like
I appreciate it.
Why do you come back to a camp like this if you're not playing, if you're not coaching? Because I think a lot of people, the reason they go to these types of programs is because they aspire to either stay involved in the game as a coach or they want to continue to play at the professional level.
Literally just the people. That's the answer. I absolutely love Stan Anderson.
Okay.
Like to the end, like I love him so much. He's amazing. I will always, if I'm able to come back, I will always come back for sure.
Yeah.
So
that's the reason.
That's for Stan and for the people. And I know that I can bring good energy to people. And if kids could have an experience at Camp Shutout like I did, and I could give back to the kids the way the coaching staff gave back to me, I will do it every time.
I thought it was incredible, and there's a young gentleman, there's a young gentleman who's here today, right? A goalkeeper. It was
a girl.
Oh, it was a girl.
Yeah.
With a different circumstance. And, I thought, first off, it seemed like it was a very inclusive environment for her. And I noticed that you went kind of out of your way to make this player feel part of the community as opposed to somebody that was just observing the community. when we're talking about transitions, that's a major transition for a lot of these young goalkeepers to all of a sudden have a player who comes from a different, for lack of a better term, environment, and throw them here and make them feel like they are part of that community. So how did you see that work out?
Yeah, I think she had a great time.
Great.
And she's might come back for the next session. She told me she was tired, but her mom, I think, is planning on bringing her back. Her name was Jo.
Okay.
And Joanna, I think. I saw that on her water bottle. So
did she have a J, like an F? Like
no,
she
didn't have a J, but maybe we could get her one. That's a good idea.
There we go.
Yeah, so she came and trained with some of the goalkeepers today, and I wasn't able to train with her because I was with my group, of course. But I rode back with her from the field and ate lunch with her and kind of just got to know a little bit about her. I found out she loves the color pink. I love the color pink. It's like a personality trait of mine. So we definitely have that in common, and kind of just talked to her with my friend Elise at lunch, and then we rode back from the field together, and she had a smile on her face the whole time. So
I think that's just
no
massive.
excuses ever. Like
No.
it's amazing when these kids come in and they have no excuse. And you think about, like, sometimes, like, even myself, I'd come to the camp or go to preseason and be like, like, this is hard.
Yeah.
But it's really not that
And I think
hard.
it throws everything in perspective type of a thing. Is like, this is supposed to be a fun journey. I think, getting back to kind of transitions, like, a lot of these players are always on this path looking for goals as opposed to enjoying the journey to the goals. Because I'll be honest, like, at some point, that journey is going to end. And it's going to, I wouldn't say end, it changes. How about that? Your position in the sport changes, whether you're playing or whether you're now a fan or whether now, you're a parent watching your kids play or whatever. It changes. So you don't, if you start thinking of it as just an end, or if you're just, I think when I was younger, I just was so focused on the end result that it was like, are you even having a good time doing this? It's like, well, next year when I'm in college, it's like, yeah, but what about next year? Next year you'll be like, well, it's hard now, but what next year when I'm in MLS? What if that never happens? Well, I don't know,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
you got to think about that stuff for sure.
So what do you plan to do now?
I want to go to law school. Maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
I want to be a
Because your parents
sports
are lawyers,
agent.
right?
My parents, both of my parents are lawyers.
Okay.
My mom is I love my dad. He's great.
Okay.
But my mom is an absolute savage.
Okay.
I've been working for her this summer, and I always knew she was smart, but wow, she is really smart. She defends like car companies and stuff like that, Michelin Tire as well. And
the staff assistants here are kind of like summer associates, aren't they?
A little bit. Yeah.
I saw you guys were up to like what, 2 and 3 in the morning last night, just doing work for the camp.
Yeah, I was only up till 1 in the morning, to be honest.
I just saw all you guys like coffee, like sitting near laptops.
Oh, I drink a Celsius at 10 p.m.
Whoa. Okay.
Because I had to stay.
You had the tropical vibe, I think.
Yes, I did have the great observation. Great observation.
Yeah.
That is a great observation. Yes,
I know my Celsiuses, and I also know when people are drinking certain ones because I go, that's the
for sure
star fruit.
No,
one.
yeah, I told Kitschy today he had a fantasy vibe one, and I was like, that's my favorite flavor.
So Arctic Blast is mine.
Oh, I'm having that one later today.
Oh,
so.
I have a whole box of them upstairs.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
We got
if you want to, if you run out somehow.
Oh, I would love to.
Let me know because I have more.
I only have one left right now.
Oh, you can have one of mine.
Oh, thank you.
Of course.
Look at that. Look at these connections we made. Speaking of transitions from one flavor to another flavor. Fran, I don't want to keep you too long because I know you got to go out there. What's up next tonight, actually?
Dinner at 5 p.m.
Oh, dinner at 5 p.m. Okay.
I think.
Okay. So we're doing dinner at 5 p.m. and then the sessions back up at 6?
6 or 6:30.
Okay. Just check.
But I know that I'm pretty sure that there's a Team Keeper War staff demo tonight.
Oh,
which low-key I was thinking maybe I should try doing it. But
I mean, you did train this morning at 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah, I did, but I think my heel hurts too much.
Okay.
But tomorrow in soccer tennis, everybody better watch out because I'm back.
All right.
So,
well, this has been amazing. Kind of like any final thoughts, like any advice, like final advice to like any young coaches out there or young goalkeepers out there who are dealing with being in a new environment or a new staff.
Yeah, I think that for the young coaches and the young players, it's super important to remember everyone's been there. Everyone's been there. Asking questions is never a bad thing. Being nervous means you care. and making sure that you can just give your best energy, whether that means being loud, whether that means listening. You be the best leader you can possibly be, and you will 110% find success eventually at some point in your career, life, or whatever it may be.
Whatever it may be. I love the way you said that. You're like
Career, life,
What
whatever.
else is there after
Yeah,
that?
I don't know. I don't know.
Oh my
Being a parent, it's the same thing, like everything.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Well, awesome. I mean, honestly, thanks for taking the time. I know it's a busy schedule here.
Of course.
And like, some people were like, "Oh, we'll do a podcast tomorrow." They're like, because Monday would, it's just gonna be hectic. And then I'm just thinking, the farther you get in the week, the more tired people are. Like, they come from the fields. It's like, it's a day 4. But one thing, like I was saying, is like, I've noticed a lot of players here and a lot of coaches get a second wind for that evening session.
Oh, 100%.
And I think
Arctic vibe.
With the Arctic vibe, yeah.
Celsius.
Are all the is that a new sponsor? Camp Shutout? Just Celsius beverages.
That's funny.
Oh my God. If people want to connect with you, what's your handle on the Union? Because as you guys all know, the Union does officially launch next week. That's August 1st, 2023. Shout out to all you guys who have been involved in the beta test. You guys have been amazing. We've gotten so much great feedback. Top players, top coaches are going to be involved with this thing, breakdown sessions, analysis. If you want to reach out to us about guest suggestions or topic suggestions, also contact at insidethe18media.com or at Goalkeeper Podcast on the Union. And Fran, let's see if you can remember your Union handle.
Yes, I do.
Oh, look at that.
Thank God, because I made it yesterday.
Okay.
So it's FFARACI. So my first initial for Francesca, and then my last name, Faraci.
I love it. I love it, guys. And I know at camp right now, we're trying to keep the communication, to just camp related stuff. But if people out there who are not at camp, want to reach out to you directly, it sounds like you've got a cool journey. We would love to have you back on or do some vlogging or something like that and kind of show us your journey and how you're either staying involved in the game and becoming the big time sports agent. You're repping all the top goalkeepers in the world.
Of course.
Maybe that'll be yeah,
they deserve protection too. So,
what if 10 years from now, I'm sitting here with my agent, Francesca Faraci.
We'd love to see
We're working on that multi-million-dollar deal right now. All right, guys, that's all the time on Inside the 18, and we are out. Later, guys.
Yeah!